Coming up on City Corner, we have several organizations that you're going to want to know about. Stay tuned, we'll be right back. Hello, welcome to City Corner. I'm Sarah Bernard, and one of the things that I absolutely love about this show, City Corner, here in St. Louis, is learning about all of the organizations that exist in this great city of ours and how they impact every single one of us who lives here. And I'm continually blown away by the level of commitment that we have in the city of organizations to assist all of us. So today we have 4 of the top largest actual organizations that are here to talk about, and starting with the United Way and going down from there, we've got several organizations that are going to tell us what they are doing for all of us here in St. Louis. So we have Michelle Tucker, who is the CEO of the United Way of Greater St. Louis, and we have Brent Jackson, who is the Chief Philanthropy Officer of Catholic Charities. So welcome, Brent and Michelle. So glad you guys could join us today.
Oh, thank you for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. So Michelle, the United Way, I mean, it's probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest organizations in St. Louis that really helps our community. I feel like every single household is somehow affected or involved with the United Way. And you've been at the helm for quite a long time.
Yes, 6.5 years I've been at the helm. But, I like to say United Way is a part of the fabric of the community. We actually have been around for 103 years now. So we celebrated that last year, actually. So we're over 103 years old. And we support the community's safety net. And so right now there are 160 nonprofit agencies that we support with consistent funding and capacity building. And so I'm so happy to get the opportunity to have the community learn more about those agencies today and celebrate the fact that we just kicked off our annual campaign last week.
Yeah, the campaign is really, really important, and we're going to talk more about that today. But the United Way's function then, if you could describe it in one sentence, what would that be?
Oh gosh, we are in place to help people live their best possible lives. That's our mission, but we do that as a collective. And so when I talk about the safety net of the community, we work hand in hand with right now 160 plus agencies to harness the power of our collective efforts to help people through challenging times. And that means that, if someone needs shelter and food and childcare, things like that, we are here and at the ready.
So how exactly does the United Way, how exactly do you help our citizens? So for example, can people call you directly, or are you primarily a funding organization?
Well, both and. So I'll start with 211 because that's something that is accessible to every community member, and it leads them right to United Way. So our 211 helpline is a 24/7 helpline, and people can chat and they can call. You just simply pick up the phone and call 211. That's probably the easiest way. But we receive over 200,000 phone calls from community members on an annual basis where people need help navigating to available resources. And when I talk about available resources, it's not just the resources that are offered by our safety net organizations. We're talking about over 28,000 resources that are at the ready that we help people to knit together a solution to connect to that helps to answer their challenge.
So is 211 a 24/7 helpline?
It is.
And what are some of the examples of ways people are using that?
Wow, people call, and right now some of the top concerns are like with utility payments. And so you might have someone that calls in that just needs a little bit of help one month to pay the utility bill, right? And you also have people who call and maybe they need shelter, and people need shelter for different reasons. It might be unfortunately a situation where they need to get away right away because there might be some violence happening in the home, or through the recent storms, you saw an example of people needing shelter because a disaster or something had happened.
So that's a great point on the storm relief, and that's a really big thing that you and all of the organizations that we're going to be talking to today have jumped in and helped with. Did you see the calls increase during that time?
Oh, absolutely. And so I will tell you that our 211 moved into crisis response mode. And we do this after every disaster, right? Okay. But we moved in quickly. It was probably within minutes of the storm hitting. And we started to, within the hour, receive phone calls from people that had been impacted by the devastation. And what happens is our 211 hotline serves as an official intake line. And the way that that helps, and it helps in a very strategic way, but when people call in, they just need resources, right? And they need access to, if their home has been devastated like so many were during this storm, they need a safe place to be, a safe place that night. And so we had information about shelters, information about hotel vouchers and things like that, right, that were at the ready. We also wanted to make sure our partners understood the type of response that was needed after this disaster, because disasters take custom responses, right? Mm-hmm. Every disaster is different.
Right.
So these official intakes help us to understand and assess the level of devastation and the type of effort that's going to be needed to help people.
Yeah, that's amazing. So let's shift gears for a minute and bring Brent into the conversation. Mm-hmm. So Brent Jackson from Catholic Charities. So your organization is a recipient of funds from the United Way. Is that correct? Is that the primary way that you're involved with the United Way?
Correct. Yeah, we've received funds graciously from the United Way for over a couple of decades. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to be remiss and miss the opportunity to say thank you to the United Way. Their rapid response and flexibility with the spending, just using the storm as an example, allowed us to immediately have an impact in the community, where we're a long-term, for example, disaster services organization. That's one thing that we do. Their funding immediately had an impact that we were able to help.
So United Way is getting calls, 211 calls. You're getting calls all during the tornadoes that we're talking
Correct.
About from May 2025. How do you work in conjunction with the United Way during a disaster like that?
Right. We were talking about this a few minutes ago. It's been a learning lesson, I think, this storm recently. United Way is a leader that brings us all together. We had over 3,000 requests for care through Catholic Charities for assistance. And it was the collaboration with Ben Perrin, who runs our disaster services program, with United Way and with the city to figure out what role each of us play and how we're going to continue to move forward. There's an immediate need, and then you have to assess the need. So we know that over those 3,000 people that requested care, there's different tiers. Some people, their homes were no longer existed. Other people had moderate damage. So through our case management work, we're then able to have an impact long term, but short term, United Way really is a leader that kept us all in the right direction.
And go ahead, Michelle.
Now, you know what? I like to refer to us as almost a quarterback. And so what we do is we have ongoing meetings. So we started right away meeting with community organizations active in disaster, Catholic Charities being one of them, but we plan for things like this. And that's why I said after every disaster we show up. But through storm relief, we are meeting on a daily basis, and we're talking about what strategies need to be unlocked. How do we respond through the storm? And one of the things that I'll bring us back to is that we make sure that the safety net is strong and resilient so that we can act fast during a time like what we experienced. And so when you think about the broader mission of the campaign, you think about a community that continues to experience crises, right? It's either something that happens on a day-to-day basis, or something that is as devastating as what we're talking about. But think about, under normal times, 43% of the families across our region cannot afford to meet their basic needs on a monthly basis. Mm-hmm. Now, that's staggering in itself. Mm-hmm. And if you add that to what happened during the storm and some of the funding cuts that have happened this year, we've got a challenge that we all need to pay attention to, lean into, and find ways to support the community.
And you're talking about the federal funding cuts that have happened. So let's talk about the campaign, because we're just kicking that off right now. Is that right?
We kicked it off last week at the Cardinals game, yes.
Okay, great. And so this is the time of year that United Way, you have your annual campaign. And tell us why that is important, and what is the goal for the campaign?
Oh gosh, well, you know what? Our goal is to raise as much money as we can possibly raise to support the need. And right now, the need is greater than it's ever been for our community. And so we're hoping to have a historic campaign this year. So we're asking people to step up in a really big way. But the significance of the campaign is to support the safety net of the community. And if you think about what that means, it means that when people need help, they need resources that are available. And so we are steadily resourcing the safety net through capacity building, through funding, so that they are in place to help people as they experience challenges.
Yeah, and I want to mention that while you were talking, we had the QR code. It's going to come back on our screen.
Great,
so
great.
Our viewers can get involved with United Way, either through campaign contributions or through volunteer opportunities, things like that. So we do want our viewers to pay attention to that QR code. So what percentage of your revenue comes from this campaign or needs to come from this campaign annually?
Yeah, so our primary, when we're out fundraising, we are trying to get as many dollars out into the community as possible. And so we try to make sure 90 cents of every dollar is going out into the community. But there's a lot of effort that goes into fundraising, but I feel like it is a full community mobilization that happens. We have chairs that are involved in helping us to raise funds. And then we have so many companies that pour into this campaign. You touched on something that I don't want to not give attention to, and it's volunteers. Because I will tell you that volunteers, I say people power matters, because it matters that people are signing up every day through our volunteer center. It's been around for 90 years, and it's like a matchmaking system. If people are looking for a volunteer opportunity, we have nonprofits every day loading opportunities into the system, and someone can just go in and they go online and they can put in like criteria. I don't want to do anything that's not on a Saturday, or I want to bring my young kid with me. And if you put that in, our tool allows you to see a list of open opportunities.
And I
you
believe
can
there's
get out
some
there.
opportunities that are just short term, right? So just
Absolutely.
like a one-day mobilization.
You got it.
Yeah.
Yes,
So there's long-term or short-term opportunities.
Yes.
It's a great place to go for all of the volunteer opportunities in St. Louis, sort of consolidated.
stlvolunteer.org is where you can find it.
Okay, love it. That's so great. And it is so great to volunteer. We have so many great volunteers in this community, and we saw a lot of them out of the tornado relief.
About 6,000 and growing through the tornado relief efforts.
It's amazing. So Brent, let's talk about how this campaign impacts you, because it all funnels back to organizations like you and 160. And we have two other great organizations, the Red Cross and St. Louis Foodbank, joining us in the second half of the show as well.
All
so we're going to hear from them.
partners.
Yeah, exactly.
So the campaign is a part of our annual income, of course. But I think I would focus on what we talked about at the beginning. Catholic Charities and our 10 ministries do a lot of work throughout the region, anywhere from mental health, affordable housing, food security, workforce development, and senior care, which are our top 5 priorities. But we have all of our safety net ministries that we will for many years going forward. But I think the United Way for us is one of those organizations that, and not to go back to the storm, because I would like to talk about the community as a whole, but allows us and brings us all together, that could be a nucleus to continue to let us all move forward and do our work. So we're proud partners with United Way, and so it'll be impactful to many of our ministries through their funding.
Yeah, I love it. I love how the United Way is really the hub of all of these organizations and helping everyone in St. Louis, 160 different organizations, and over 1 million of our community members are benefiting from the work you're doing. So we're going to take a quick break. Don't go away, because coming up we've got the St. Louis Foodbank and we have the Red Cross to talk more about how the United Way is also helping them. So stay tuned.
I felt accomplished after I got my diploma. Made me feel that I could take on whatever challenges life throws at you.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
Welcome back to City Corner. I'm Sarah Bernard, and we've been talking about the impact that the United Way has on our entire St. Louis region, and especially the organizations that it helps support. Over 160 organizations here in St. Louis. Right now, we're in the fall of 2025. We've got a big campaign going for the United Way to help fund these organizations. So 2 more organizations are here to join us, and I'm so excited. We've got Lakricia Cox, who is the Executive Director of the Red Cross, and we have Meredith Knopp from the St. Louis Area Foodbank. Welcome to both of you. I'm so glad you could join us.
Thanks.
And you both you're leading large organizations here in St. Louis, and everyone has heard of both the Food Bank and the Red Cross. I want you to each talk a little bit about what your organizations do, and certainly we're going to talk about how the United Way impacts. So, Lakricia, why don't we start with you and the Red Cross?
Yes. So a lot of people know us for disasters, but the largest disaster that we respond to every day are home fires. Right now, we are responding in a year to over 500 home fires, and we really provide the same type of response and support than we do in a large, big disaster such as the tornado that happened on May 16th. So we're ensuring that, people are getting shelters if needed. We're making sure that they also receive financial assistance, because that's probably the most devastating parts of their lives when people have lost everything that they've owned. And so that is typically what we do. And we just want to make sure that, even in the homes fire, we're doing prevention as well. And so we install we install home smoke alarms. And so in those smoke alarm installations, we partner with the fire departments. We're partnering with other organizations. Probably most recently, we partnered with the Urban League. And so we're trying to ensure that we're doing preventive services and also alleviating that suffering that's going on.
So that is really interesting, Lakricia. So how is it that the Red Cross actually is involved with installing these smoke alarms? Are you partnering, you said, with the fire departments?
Right, but we also utilize volunteers. 90% of our workforce are volunteers, and so we go into the communities and we identify with the fire department what homes need to be installed to have the installations. And so we bring volunteers, we bring partners to go out and to ensure that those smoke alarms are installed.
And then let's go back to house fires. So over more than one a day is what you're helping our community members. So are you alerted by the fire department when there's a house fire to go in and help that family?
Yeah, so we work with various different partners. Sometimes we are alerted by the fire departments, but sometimes we get calls from the community, like United Way. People call 211 and they'll direct them to call us. So we get those calls, and then we're able to verify it with our teams, and we are able to respond.
Yeah, Michelle Tucker in the last segment was talking about the 211 number that anyone can dial to ask for help for anything, and they'll be redirected. So I love that you brought that in, because the Red Cross might be the perfect agency to help that particular community member. Let's switch gears and talk to you, Meredith. So the St. Louis Area Food Bank, most people have heard of it. It's big. You guys have been around for a long time. Tell us a little bit about the number of households that you're impacting and how that works.
We have. So we actually just commemorated 50 years of impact this past July. And we are actually serving and supporting 26 counties, so 14 here in Missouri and 12 in Illinois. And so when I say we support, we do that through our network of partner agencies, our food pantries, almost 600 strong. And then we have our programs. We have our school markets, our food on the move, our mobile distributions. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people are reaching out to the St. Louis Area Food Bank when they need food, when they need support.
Yeah, and so obviously both organizations, the Food Bank and the Red Cross, need funding. That's how you support all the work that you're doing. So how much does the United Way and the campaigns that they do, and especially the one right now, impact the work that you're able to do?
Well, United Way campaign is critical, right? They provide much needed funding to 160 wonderful organizations, but even above that, it's about the power of collaboration. It's what all of the organizations, Lakricia and I are here today. We work very, very well together. We work a lot together, but there's 158 other organizations just like us that are united by the United Way. So it's campaign, it's training, it's resources. It's coming together as that collaborative to say, we are here with you, St. Louis, when you need us, whether it's Red Cross, whether it's the St. Louis Area Food Bank, or a myriad of other organizations. It's understanding that none of us can do this alone.
And are you all in your efforts and in your staff and volunteers directing people to each other as well? So Red Cross may direct people to St. Louis Area Foodbank and vice versa all the time.
Yes.
We're laughing. It's like, yes, all the time.
Yes, it actually happened most recently during the tornado response. We provided food and relief. We probably provided over 67,000 meals during the time, but we provide immediate relief. And so I referred and make sure that I reached out to our friends here over the St. Louis Area Foodbank, the hubs, to work with them so they can have the continuous support.
Right. And that's just a perfect example, right? Yeah. The Red Cross is doing those hot meals and meeting those immediate needs for people, but then we're coming in to provide longer term support. So even in the first 60 days, we provided almost 600,000 pounds of food and resources to our community. So it's both working together that makes the power of United Way organizations just really have that level that we could never do on our own.
Yeah, so Michelle Tucker was talking about in the last segment how they mobilized, United Way mobilized a crisis team when the tornadoes hit. And that came out of nowhere, we all know, and didn't expect that and couldn't anticipate that. So how does that look like in your organizations when the United Way starts their crisis team? How does it mobilize you all and what you're doing?
Sure. Well, I think for the food bank, we were mobilized instantaneously. We knew that we had neighbors that were impacted. We knew we had agencies impacted, but we also looked to the United Way. We said, okay, what are you standing up? How do we support you? Because the last thing that anyone needs is people competing to try to help. Right. And so we had people calling us for volunteers. Last year, we were fortunate to have over 78,000 volunteer hours just at the St. Louis Area Foodbank. So people started calling us, and we started to refer them to Michelle and 211, saying, look, they are going to know what's on the ground. They are going to be the captains, if you will, for the disaster. So all of our volunteers that were calling us were deferred to United Way.
That's interesting. So you start there with the United Way, and then it funnels down to you.
Absolutely.
And then do they send volunteers to you?
Oh, absolutely. It's reciprocity, right? We all work together, and we're always on the phone. What do you need? Where do you see help? Where do you need more support? Do you need more water here, more water there? And so it's all of us communicating because we have the best interest of our neighbors in mind.
So let's talk, Lakricia, about the Red Cross versus the St. Louis Food Bank. So what they're doing, you're not really, you don't do. Like, they're supplying food. That's not something the Red Cross does, or do you get it from them?
No, we supply food because we respond to the immediate need. Like, for example, on day one, we had a shelter set up to ensure that people that were displaced for their homes, they had housing. But we provided meals to them, hot meals, and fresh food for them to have during that time. Everyone received 3 meals a day. And at one period of time, we had probably 5 shelters at one time open, and then we had a total of 8 shelters. And also we did community feeding, but it's only for a certain period of time. And so we hit those target areas where we knew we had the most need.
And then what about you? How does what was going on in the ground impact the St. Louis Food Bank?
Sure. So there's a lot of things. So we had actually people calling us saying, how can we help provide hot meals? So I'm calling my friend Lakricia over and saying, hey, that's not us, but I know someone who does.
Yeah.
Right. And then we're at the disaster action centers. We're at the mobilized places across the region to say, hey, we're going to deliver food boxes, cleaning supplies, water, household goods to these locations. And so that way people know where to go. So it's about communication, it's about coordination and supplementing and focusing on the organizations to do that work better than anyone. And so we're not going to try to start to learn. We're going to just support Lakricia and her team.
Yeah, and what I love is here in St. Louis, we have all of these organizations that we've been talking about. You guys are just a couple of them that help our community, and you all work so well together.
Yes, we really do. Again, as Meredith said, we know that no one organization can do this alone. And the needs of the St. Louis community are so great that we're better and stronger when we're working together.
Yeah, and the needs of every community. And every single community needs to have organizations like this, but we have great ones here in St. Louis, so we should be really proud. I want to make sure we keep coming back to the QR code for the United Way. It's going to show up again on our screen. There it is. please, if as viewers, this is a great way to learn more about the United Way, to contribute to the campaign that benefits what you all are doing here and your staffs. Let's go talk a little bit about your staffs and your volunteers. How many people do you have on each of your respective staffs? How many volunteers? How can people get involved? Let's start with you, Meredith.
So the best way people can get involved with the St. Louis Area Food Bank is to go to our website, stlfoodbank.org. Right now, we only have about 89 members on staff. But as I mentioned, last year, over 78,000 volunteer hours just with the St. Louis Area Food Bank. Our staff cannot do the work that we do without our volunteer army, if you will, right? We can't distribute 42 million pounds of food. It just doesn't work. So we need our community. stlfoodbank.org is the way to find out.
And there's always a need for more volunteers.
Always. We need food, we need funds, and we need friends. Emphasis on the friends.
Love it. Okay, that's cute. Okay, Lakricia, talk about your volunteer base.
Yes, so over 90% of our staff are volunteers. We treat our volunteers, actually, I don't sometimes know the difference between a staff and a volunteer because that's how integrated they are into the work that we do at the American Red Cross. And so in terms of how many volunteers go out day to day, we have volunteers going out installing smoke alarms every day.
Yeah.
We have volunteers that, really just respond to the day-to-day house fires, and they have a role that they play each in receiving the call when they come in and also responding. And we send a team out that goes out on the job on the day of the fire. And so during the tornado, I will say that due to the United Way, we were able to get specific, we call them disaster events-based volunteers. And so we had hundreds of them calling in during that time to respond, to go out and to serve into community.
Yeah, it's amazing. I love the passion that each of you bring to your work and what you're talking about in your organizations and to our community. I love the tie-in to the United Way and also to each other. I think it's wonderful and it's great support. And I want to thank our viewers for joining us today. Please do get involved. This is a great way to help our community by volunteering. And your organizations are part of the United Way's volunteer corps that Michelle was talking about, right? So people can also just go to the United Way and find short opportunities or big opportunities to volunteer and help these organizations as well. So keep coming back to City Corner. We'll be back next week with another great topic. Thanks for joining us.